Hello, and welcome to Nova's Featherweight Tip of the Month for June 2020. I would like to visit with you this month about lubricating your Singer Featherweight motor. The motor is the heart of your sewing machine. The motors on modern sewing machines like my Bernina are sealed. There is nothing that needs to be done to them or that can be done to them. They are sealed for the life of the motor. Your Singer Featherweight is not that way. At the end of the Singer Featherweight production run, there were a few sealed motors made in England, but the American-made black Singer Featherweight 221s always had motors that needed lubrication. There's been a great deal of discussion recently on several of the Facebook groups and internet forums about when to lubricate the motor on your Singer Featherweight and what to use. How often you need to lubricate the motor on your Singer Featherweight 221 will depend upon how often you are using the machine. There is a handy guide on the back side of Nova's Featherweight maintenance card about when to lubricate the motor on your Featherweight. It's right back here on the back, and it tells you all about lubricating the motor on your Singer Featherweight. If the rest of your machine needs to be maintained, for sure the motor needs attention as well. You can order Nova's Featherweight maintenance card from my website, www.novamontgomery.com, in the online shop on my website. The only lubricant I would ever recommend for the motor of your Singer Featherweight is Nova's motor lubricant. I can attest to the research and testing that went into this product, went into the development of this product. I spent 3 years investigating and working with a chemist in a private research lab. I introduced Nova's motor lubricant in the summer of 2014. It's what I have used exclusively in my machines since then, as well as some noteworthy collectors of historic machines. After the introduction of Nova's motor lubricant, quite a few other products came on the market. Again, there has been a great deal of discussion in some of the internet groups lately regarding their quality. The only thing I would ever recommend that you put in your machine, the only thing that I would ever put in my machine, is Nova's motor lubricant. I recently had a customer who had shipped her machine to me for service and repair tell me that she would never touch the motor on her Singer Featherweight. Her motor showed much evidence of neglect due to that lack of understanding on her part. When a motor is not lubricated regularly as needed and as intended by the motor's designer, excessive carbon soot builds up inside the motor. These American motors are closed in. There are no vents. Consequently, there is no place for the soot to go. As the motor fills with soot and the commutator on the armature blackens with soot, the motor will begin hesitating and then will eventually stop. Most of the time, I can clean that soot out and restore the motor. But with proper maintenance, that is, lubricating the motor regularly with Nova's motor lubricant, the life of the motor will be greatly, greatly extended. I had another repair customer who shipped her machine for me to clean the motor. When I looked inside the motor, it appeared that oil or a very thin, runny lubricant had been used to lubricate the machine. I contacted the owner, who told me that she only used my lubricant. As she continued to speak, she talked about digging out the old lubricant. I never, ever recommend digging in the motor grease wells. There are two. There's one here by the belt and one over here on the back of the machine. There is a wool felt wick in there and a copper spring holding that wool felt wick in place that can be damaged by digging. I asked her to double check on the lubricant. While she was affirming to me on the telephone that she only used mine, she pulled it out and discovered it was not Nova's motor lubricant, but one of the other brands, just as I had thought. Its thinness had created the problem of the motor smoking. It was just like oil being placed inside the motor. Nova's motor lubricant has my name on it. Never put oil in your Singer Featherweight motor. It will cause the motor to smoke and burn on the inside. I tell my students in Nova's Featherweight Maintenance Workshop to envision a cookie sheet that has had an oily food on it. That oil that cooked out of the food will smoke and burn. Eventually, it'll quit burning and it'll quit smoking. But what is left? A sticky residue is left behind. When this happens in a Singer Featherweight motor, the motor will seize up because of the sticky residue. Okay, we've talked about the when of motor lubrication. It depends upon how much you are sewing, but at least once a year. And we've talked about the what of motor lubrication, only Nova's motor lubricant. Now let's talk about the how. There is an in-depth video under the product description of Nova's motor lubricant in the online shop on my website. It's under the product description. But let's just do a quick demo here. With the unique applicator, the applicator tip of Nova's motor lubricant, there is no digging. Place the tip or nib of the syringe down into the motor grease tube or motor port or motor well, all the way down, and then you begin depressing the plunger. I have arthritis in my hands, and so this is hard for me. I've learned to park the end of the syringe on the heel of my hand. I put the end of the syringe right there on the heel of my hand and pull back with my fingers. I have a lot more power, a lot more strength there than I do if I'm trying to push the plunger with my thumb, and it's much less painful. So you're going to park that on the heel of your hand, and you're going to actually pull back, and you're going to depress on that plunger, press hard. It's going to be really hard at first until you see goo coming out, and then you're slowly going to back that out, and I got it everywhere. Oh well, it's a good demo. If you've done this correctly, you should have a line of lubricant stuck to the end of the syringe. If you pull out too quickly, you will have only put lubricant at the very bottom of that motor port or well, and you want that full from the bottom to the top. Again, the goal is for that motor port or motor well to be filled from the bottom to the top. Just let me clean this belt up here. You don't want that on the belt. And I made a mess, so that's a good demo to show you there to clean that up. You don't want that all over your belt. Now you're going to do the one on the back. Actually, this is much better and much easier if the machine is lying on its face. In my featherweight maintenance workshop, we talk about doing that when the machine is lying on its face when we do these two holes here on the arm. But for this demo, we're just going to do it from the back like this. And again, you're going to depress until lubricant starts coming out, and then slowly, slowly continue to depress and back that syringe out. And again, do you see that line of lubricant all the way up and down the tip of the syringe? You know you have filled that motor port or motor well all the way up from the bottom to the top if you have lubricant along the tip of that syringe. Keeping the motor on your Singer Featherweight properly lubricated is probably the most neglected thing about maintaining these machines. If you want to keep it sewing, you must remember to keep the motor lubricated. Remember, the motor is the heart of the sewing machine. Take care of it for your sewing enjoyment. Preserve it for future generations by lubricating it regularly with Nova's motor lubricant. Happy stitching.